We now have a new timeline for the passing of this massive $3.5 trillion stimulus package. Let's get into all the details. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video, as it is going to get very, very busy over the coming days and weeks as we are closing in on the final timeline of the passing of this big stimulus package. We're watching everything very closely right now for additional stimulus proposals and provisions to come out that will offer additional stimulus checks, possibly monthly recurring payments, and those coveted permanent raises to benefits like Social Security, SSDI, SSI, VA, RRB, and anything else we can find in the package for low-income and fixed-income beneficiaries. It is very important this time frame that we're in right now with all of these proposals hitting the table. Make sure to subscribe right down below the video. Again, totally free to do so, and feel free to share this video with your friends, family, and social media so we can continue to help out as many people as we can during this very difficult and confusing time. I'm here for you in any way that I can. Thanks again for your support. I truly appreciate it. Let's talk through this. All right, so over the last few weeks here, I've been coming back in my videos saying we have this big stimulus package on the table, but we don't have a defined timeline as to when it's actually going to be passed. Until now. Here's the thing. In my previous videos over the last few weeks, I've been saying pretty much any time between September and about the end of the year, we could see the passing of this package. However, we now have an announcement that was just released yesterday evening for the actual line in the sand to pass this package. And it's actually a lot sooner than I was anticipating, and it's probably a lot sooner than you were thinking as well. Let me lay it out for you. So yesterday evening, Nancy Pelosi sent out a letter to her colleagues, the Democratic colleagues, and she said she's laying down a line in the sand for the passing of the $3.5 trillion stimulus package, as well as the accompanying $1.2 trillion infrastructure package by October 1st. Yeah, that is not very long from right now. Seriously. It's a very interesting date that she laid out, October 1st. By the way, let me mention, she did not say on October 1st necessarily, but on or before October 1st. So it could be coming well before October 1st. That's not that far from right now. And here's the thing. It's an actually very interesting date simply because they need to have the new federal budget actually assigned and figured out by then. Well, if we look back in history, last year, when they came out to late September, they continued to pass this stopgap bill. Do you remember all that business? If you've been watching for a while now, we talked about that. It seemed like almost every day. They were passing these stopgap bills to keep the government funded for like 2 more days so that they could get it hammered out. Well, they didn't get it done, so they had to pass another stopgap bill for like 2 more days to get it done. Well, it didn't work again, so they had to pass another stopgap bill. They did it like 3 or 4 times. They continued to pass these like 2-day stopgap bills to keep the government funded so that the government didn't go into a shutdown. That's simply because they didn't have the federal budget figured out. Well, it's probably going to be the same situation again this year. And what's interesting about it, October 1st is when the new fiscal year begins for the government. Therefore, they need to have the new government budget figured out by then. Well, it's kind of interesting that they want to have this $3.5 trillion stimulus package passed by essentially the same day that they need to have that all figured out as well. So either way, I mean, it's a lot on their plate, but Nancy Pelosi thinks that they can absolutely get it done. Here's the thing. This would actually be a really good thing for all of us here because we know that this massive stimulus package is going to have a lot of really good stuff in it. We're still waiting on the final adjustments and everything to be added into the package. In fact, over the coming days here and weeks, as we've already seen numerous proposals hitting the table, we're going to see a pile of them coming in, literally a flood of these things coming in. Here's the thing. We have about 270 Democratic people in Congress throughout the House of Representatives and the Senate. There's about 270 Democrats. The reason I'm saying Democrats is simply because we know that the reconciliation bill is strictly going to be passed by Democrats. So, obviously Republicans are not going to submit any amendments to the bill or proposals to add into the bill because they're not going to be part of it, simply because Democrats are doing it simply by themselves. So here's the thing. Between the 270 Democrats across Congress, you better believe there's going to be way more proposals hitting the table now, especially now that Nancy Pelosi has laid down October 1st as the official date on or before to get these two packages completely passed. Not just like thinking about it or just talking about it. No, she wants to have them 100% final and done in the House and the Senate by October 1st. That's a big achievement, seriously. When they have a lot going on now, we know that how slow they can be when it comes to all of these packages, when it comes to the negotiations, the amendments, the actual passing of the packages. There's only like 800 votes that they need to go through to get these things passed, right? I mean, obviously, it's not 800, but it's a lot. It's like every day they're doing all these votes, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Seriously. But it's all these procedural votes that they need to go through in order to unlock certain privileges and start to move forward with these packages. Speaking of voting, the House of Representatives will be voting, as of right now, they've talked about Monday evening. So in just tomorrow evening, they are planning on voting on the budget resolution, which will finally open up the last set of doors to get everything moving on this reconciliation bill. That's coming tomorrow evening. We'll see if it actually happens, right? Like I said just a minute ago, we've seen delay after delay after delay, so we'll see if they actually do that. But again, the budget resolution is not the final vote, but rather it is the, what they're going to be voting on tomorrow is actually just like the procedural vote to get it opened up to get, the reconciliation bill going. So they need to vote and pass the budget resolution first, and then they can open up the reconciliation bill, if that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of votes, a lot of budget R words following, right? So yeah, that's what it is tomorrow, is the budget resolution, not the budget reconciliation, right? But that is to come soon, shortly thereafter. So yeah, wow, this is a great announcement out of Nancy Pelosi. Honestly, we haven't heard much out of Nancy lately. She's kind of just like hanging back in the wings. Usually we hear a lot from Nancy, but realistically, lately, it has not been much out of Nancy. It's mostly been Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders, for the most part, that have kind of been doing this whole thing. But we also do know that Bernie Sanders is the main man. He is the architect behind this $3.5 trillion package. And we also do know that Bernie Sanders is a huge advocate for stimulus checks. Remember that? Let me remind for just a second. When it came to stimulus check number 2, it was Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley, who is a Republican. The two of these guys stepped forward and they said, we need a stimulus check. And they kept pounding the table for a few days. It was maybe like a week or so, maybe 5 days. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly how many days it was, but it was a few days that these two guys were out basically saying, we like the package, but we're not going to vote for it unless we get a stimulus check. And ultimately, they got a stimulus check added into the package. It was a $600 stimulus check, but you know what? I don't know about you, but I'll take 600 over zero, right? Even though 600 was not very much and it didn't go very far, it's better than nothing, right? So I would absolutely take 600 over zero. And, I feel like many people here would probably feel the same way. Of course, we want to go for something more like 2,000 or way more, whatever we can get. But at the end of the day, something is certainly better than just being completely forgotten about. So again, the new timeline. We have the new timeline on the table. One thing I want to reiterate, please don't hold your breath on this. Of course, we can only hope and actually have confidence that they're going to follow through with these dates that they've laid out and this timeline that they have on the table right now. But we've seen delays after delays every single time when it comes to these packages, and we don't that it doesn't take much for these people to be delayed a week or two or things like that. So it could absolutely be delayed, but the simple fact is, prior to yesterday evening, when Nancy Pelosi sent out that letter, we did not have a timeline on the table. Not a single timeline. We just basically had a big window in which they were looking at passing it, which was basically any time between September through the end of the year. Well, that's a huge window. But now we actually literally have a line in the sand. I mean, Nancy Pelosi went out to the beach. She took her little stick, and she wrote a line in the sand and said, here it is. And she dated it October 1st. And she said, look, everyone. She pointed at the line with her stick and said, there it is, the line in the sand. And I have written October 1st next to the line in the sand, right? Obviously, she didn't do that, but I'm just giving you an analogy of exactly what she did, right? So that's basically what happened there. So Nancy Pelosi laid it down, and this is what's going to happen. So this is great. This is great. We finally have this line in the sand, and here's the thing. that kind of really puts a pinch on everybody because October 1st is coming really soon. It's only about, 5 weeks away, a little over 5 weeks away. That is not that long from now, especially when we're dealing with the magnitude of this package, $3.5 trillion. But one thing that they do have going for them is they're doing it through budget reconciliation. In other words, it's partisan support. In other words, it's only Democrats that are moving forward with this thing. So for the most part, there's not going to be a whole lot of negotiations back and forth. Maybe a little bit for the most part. There may be a few amendments coming through, but at the end of the day, there's probably not going to be a whole lot going into this thing other than the fact that all Democrats will just pretty much jump on board and just basically say, yeah, sounds good, throw it in. Sounds good, throw it in. Yeah, I like it, throw it in. You know what I mean? Because they have $3.5 trillion to spend. There's a lot of stuff that they can add into this package. So it's not really going to be a whole lot of going back and forth, but rather just kind of refining the process as they work through with it. So yeah, it's going to get really, really busy here over the coming days. I know I've been saying that for weeks now, and it has been very busy, but here's the thing. Now that we have this line in the sand and we only have about 5 weeks to do it, yeah, it's going to get really wild here going forward. So make sure that you are subscribed right down below the video so I can keep you updated with all of this stuff going on. And of course, I will do all this research. No need for you to do it unless, of course, you want to. Feel free to do so if you want. You can feel free to fact check anything that I talk about. You can find it all right online. That's exactly what I do, is I do a lot of research. I find all this information. I lay it all out in these short videos and just deliver it to you a couple times per day just to let you know what's actually going on in the world, right? Especially these packages that may have some pretty good goodies in there for all of the American people, especially low income and fixed income beneficiaries. That's what we're looking for in these packages, and we're looking for the crumbs, right? I mean, let's be real. In $3.5 trillion, there's going to be some crumbs laying around, and we got to figure out what those crumbs are, and we got to go around and pick those up because that's pretty much what they're laying down. And if we don't kind of pay attention and see what's out there for us, we might miss something. And we want to make sure that we get all of the financial benefits out of these packages as we can. I mean, obviously, there's going to be something in there. We just need to figure out what it is and how to get it, right? So that is what I'm here for. I'll do whatever I can to help all of you out in this community. I really appreciate you. Again, subscribe down below. Share this video with your friends, family, social media. There's a lot going on right now. This is a lot of really good stuff, and I will continue to be here for you each and every day to keep you updated with all of the necessary updates. Thank you. I really